Humility and hospitality, two virtues woven deeply into the heart of the gospel, take center stage in the story we encounter on the 22nd Sunday, as recounted in Luke's Gospel. Imagine the setting, a Sabbath meal hosted by a prominent Pharisee, where traditions and social hierarchies are on full display. The guests are watching each other closely, keenly aware of who sits where, who is closest to honor, and who might edge forward for a better position. In this charged atmosphere, Jesus observes the subtle jostling for status, the silent calculations for prestige, and then he speaks a parable that upends every assumption about what truly matters in God's kingdom. Jesus begins with a simple, practical observation. When you are invited to a banquet, don't rush for the place of honor. Instead, choose the lowest seat. Let the host see your humility, and if it is fitting, let him invite you upward. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. These words are more than advice on social etiquette. They are an invitation to examine the heart behind every action. Jesus is not merely interested in manners. He is calling his listeners to a radical humility that shapes how we see ourselves and others. Then, turning from the guests to the host, Jesus presses deeper. He challenges the very foundation of hospitality, urging, "Do not reserve your invitations for those who can repay you with influence, wealth, or status. Instead, open your home to the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the outcast, those with nothing to offer in return." There is a profound promise here. You will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. Hospitality in the kingdom of heaven is not transactional. It is generous, open-handed, and unconcerned with reciprocity or reward. Jesus reveals an upside-down world where the lowest place is the pathway to true exaltation, and where love is measured not by applause, but by compassion. St. Augustine, reflecting on this parable, once said, "Do you wish to rise? Begin by descending. You plan a tower that will pierce the clouds. Lay first the foundation of humility." The wisdom in these words is echoed in the daily choices we make, choices that often seem small or unnoticed, but are, in fact, the building blocks of a life shaped by Christ. Humility is not a grand gesture. It is lived in the details of everyday life. It is found in the willingness to let someone else go first, in the patience to listen without interrupting, in the kindness given where it cannot be repaid. These invisible acts are the very heart of the gospel. The message of this Sunday is not abstract theory or lofty spiritual ideal. It is deeply practical and relevant to every moment of our lives. Look around, in your family, your friendships, your workplace, and your community. Where are you tempted to seek recognition, to claim a place of honor, or to look for reward? And where might you instead choose the low seat, quietly serving, giving, and loving without expectation? The opportunity is always present. In choosing to bless rather than boast, in seeking to understand rather than to be understood, in giving generously without counting the cost. Perhaps today, humility looks like stepping aside and letting someone else go first, even when no one notices. Perhaps it means spending time with someone who is often overlooked, offering a listening ear to a voice that is rarely heard. Maybe it means giving quietly, without fanfare, simply because it is right. These are not dramatic acts, but they echo the teaching of Jesus and reveal the deepest treasures of his kingdom. In the hidden places of humility, God's love breaks through, and we find ourselves participating in something far greater than our own achievements or status. Hospitality, too, takes on new meaning in light of the gospel. It is not limited to invitations extended to those who can benefit us or repay us in kind. It is radical generosity, a willingness to open our lives, hearts, and homes to those on the margins, to welcome the stranger, the forgotten, and the powerless. Jesus calls us to a hospitality that sees beyond social boundaries and economic transactions, one that is rooted in the dignity of every person as a beloved child of God. True hospitality is not convenient or comfortable. It is sacrificial, transformative, and powerful. This vision of humility and hospitality challenges us to rethink the very foundation of our interactions. Are we motivated by a desire to impress, to be recognized, or to gain advantage? Or are we moved by compassion, seeking to serve and to uplift others, regardless of what we might receive in return? Jesus' teaching invites us to shift our focus from self-promotion to self-giving, to discover the joy that comes not from being elevated, but from elevating others. The question at the heart of this gospel is not, how can I rise? But rather, how can I serve? In the quiet surrender of our own ambitions, in the willingness to embrace the lowest place, we discover the true meaning of greatness. The kingdom of God is not built on power or prestige, but on humble love, freely given and quietly received. It is in the act of serving, loving without condition, welcoming without expectation, and giving without reserve, that we are lifted up and transformed. As we reflect on this message, let us consider the places in our lives where humility and hospitality might take root. Who are the people we overlook, the ones we pass by or ignore? Where might we offer a word of encouragement, a gesture of kindness, or a moment of our time to someone in need? How can we open our hearts to those who cannot repay us, trusting that in giving freely, we receive far more than we could ever imagine? The invitation of Jesus is clear. Take the lowest seat, welcome the least, and love without limit. In doing so, we participate in the mystery of God's kingdom, where the last become first, and the humble are exalted. These are the lessons of the 22nd Sunday Gospel, timeless truths that challenge, inspire, and call us to a life of radical love. May we embrace the path of humility and hospitality, not seeking recognition or reward, but simply to serve, to bless, and to love as Christ has loved us. In this way, we build our lives on the sure foundation, trusting that God sees, knows, and honors every act of humble service. And in the end, it is in losing ourselves for others that we find the true joy and fulfillment that comes from living in the light of God's kingdom.